Hello everyone, welcome to Quarrelsome Rhinoceros Stitches episode 17. My name is Monica. You can find me on Instagram as Quarrelsome Rhino, or you can find me on Ravelry as Morux, M-O-R-U-X. I'm coming to you from Maine, and it's actually fairly sunny here today. I'm recording a little bit later in the afternoon, so I'm sorry if there's any weird lighting problems that arise because of it. It's fairly sunny with some cloud cover outside, but the sun is now over that way. Normally when I record in the mornings, it's up over anyway. So I'm recording in the afternoon. I have already tried to record once, but it didn't. I felt like I rushed through it and didn't really say everything that I wanted to say, so I decided just to re-record after I'd had my afternoon, my lunch, and hopefully this time it'll work out a little better and I'll be able to get all of the information out to you. Yeah. So I have, in the last 2 weeks, I have completed a lot of things. And most of them actually are things that you haven't seen before. So I am going to start with finished objects, and I'll start with my biggest finished object first and work my way down. So my biggest finished object is, if you've been watching for a while, you'll know that I was doing a second version of the Metallic Shawl, which is one that I released not that long ago. And I decided I wanted to make one that was a little bit bigger than the pattern calls for. Hi, Kel. So this is Kel. Kel's here. Let's move away from that box. So that's Kel's here. He's my dog. He'll be running around here probably carrying a blanket mostly, and smacking into that box. Anyway, scoot over here a little bit. Anyway, yeah, so I wanted to make one that was a little bit bigger than the original shawl that I made, just so that I could give a second option for a larger size. So this is the finished second one. I have not blocked it yet, so it's not like completely finished, but it's close enough. So here is the shawl. The original shawl, when I wrote it originally, I did, this top part is the same. It is just stockinette stitch and then a section of slip stitch pattern here. And then this is where I kind of changed it up in order to make the shawl bigger. So what I did here was I did a little bit more of stockinette before I switched into the second color of yarn. I did another little mini slip stitch section between the colors, and I think that looks really cool actually, where I changed colors. And then I only did 3 rows of eyelets instead of, I think I did 5 in the original one. But I used the entire ball. It was a 100-gram ball of this gray yarn, and I used the entire 100-gram ball to do those 3 eyelet sections. And then I used a second of these, I guess it's greeny blue, ball to do this garter stitch border. So it is 3 balls of Aran weight yarn. I think technically, so this yarn is the Patton's Shetland, I think is what brand and name. Anyway, I don't remember what the colorway is for this one, but this one is probably, I think it's charcoal. It's an 80% acrylic, 20% wool blend. So I think I am going to steam block this rather than wet block it, just because of the really high acrylic content of the yarn. But yeah, so there is the Metallic Shawl. This is done, it is Aran weight. It can be worsted weight. You'll just end up with a different gauge on 8mm needles. So it's a pretty big, pretty big gauge, loose gauge. So you can get that big, squishy, schlanket like shawl. So yeah, so it's really big and squishy and comfy, and I can't wait to block it to see how these eyelets look after they've been kind of opened up a little bit. But yeah, so that's the Metallic Shawl, and so I am going to be releasing an update to that pattern with this larger size in it, and I think I'm gonna rewrite the pattern so that it is a little bit easier to understand. So so yes, there is that. That is finished object number 1. It was not the first thing that I finished this week, but it is the biggest finished object that I have. All right, next, as far as finished things go, I've been working on my meandering shawl a lot. It is not finished yet, so that is not actually a finished object. But the point is that I've been working on in brioche a lot lately, and I keep thinking that a brioche hat would be nice and cozy, especially if it was in worsted weight or DK, because oh, it would be so squishy and soft and so warm because it's double thick. So so I decided just to start a hat, and I don't really have any experience designing brioche. The meandering shawl is the first thing of brioche that I've ever picked up. And I've made so many mistakes on my meandering shawl that I'll get into a little bit later. But I decided I was just gonna go for it and make a hat. So here it is from start to finish in a week, or I think it was only like 3 days that I was working on this. So this is made with a bunch of scrap yarns that I had hanging around. Mostly from, I think, Christmas presents last year, and this purple yarn that's the main color is sort of is from a sweater that I made ages ago, and I've just had the rest sitting in my stash forever. Anyway, so I guess I'll show it to you what it looks like on. So it's a really, really slouchy kind of beanie look. It's got the pom-pom on top. So yeah, I really, really love it. I think it is super soft and squishy, and it's nice to use up a bunch of scrap yarns that I wasn't gonna use for anything else. So this main color is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, and I think the colorway is called Blackberry. I don't have the ball bands anymore. I bought the yarn a really long time ago. And then this is also Wool of the Andes in, I think it's Opal Heather. I could be wrong about that, but it's also Wool of the Andes. This one on the end is actually a Madeline Tosh leftover that I had. I think the colorway is called Mill Pond, and it's in the Tosh Chunky base. I love this. I made a hat out of it that I'll actually show you a little bit later, that I've already shown on the podcast before. And then this orange yarn, the orange, is, I picked it up at the Pumpkin Festival last year in somewhere along the coast. I forget the name of the town. Oh geez. It's a pumpkin festival. I picked it up last year, and it was like in a basket outside of this yarn store, and it was like, take me, make a pumpkin hat. So I took it, and I didn't actually make a pumpkin hat, but I did make a pom-pom. So I made a pom-pom out of the leftovers because I didn't think I was gonna have enough to work on any other projects with it. But I'm in love with this pom-pom. This is probably the best pom-pom I've ever made. And yeah, so I kind of wound this around an old like empty pill bottle and then tied it and then cut it up. Anyway, so there's that. Funny story about the pom-pom leavings though. So my dog, for those of you who don't regularly watch the podcast, my dog actually is, he's got an anxiety disorder. So he is actually on medication for that. And yes, I've tried all of the homeopathic things I can think of. We've tried more exercise. We've tried, oh, let me actually fix this here. Sorry. We've tried more exercise, we've tried all kinds of things, and it just doesn't work for him. So he takes medication, and so I've been trying to like see if he's okay to come off of it or like have a lower dose or whatever. So we've been kind of experimenting with the support of my doctor or my vet, I guess. So we've been trying it out, and so I had a trash bag in my room, and it had all of the fuzzies from the pom-pom, and it just kind of so I didn't give him his medication at night, and so then I went to sleep, and I woke up and the trash bag had been torn apart all across the room, and again with the fuzzy orange pom-pom bits all over my bedroom. So yeah, it really wasn't a good plan. But I mean, I vacuumed them up and it was fine, but the whole point of putting them in the trash can was to keep them from getting all over my room. But yeah, so we're not experimenting with the medication anymore. He's on it 2 times a day, and that's that, because apparently he just gets into stuff when I'm asleep. I'm just surprised I didn't hear it while I was sleeping. Anyway, that is a completely sidetrack. But anyway, so so this hat, it's done in brioche. It's from the crown to the brim. So you cast on like 12 stitches. You end up with a lot. I can't remember how many times you increase. And then I actually knit straight for some rows and then decreased by some stitches and then did the brim just in one color, but that's still brioche. Just one color brioche. Anyway, and I had never done brioche in the round, and I've watched some YouTube tutorials and decided that I better go for it. So I did. So there is that. I will be releasing this pattern at some point. It's probably not going to be a paid pattern. It's probably going to be a free pattern in my Ravelry store. But keep your eye out for that, because it will be coming soon. It won't take me very long to write up that pattern. Man, sorry about the sun. It is very bright. It's shining directly in my face. So it seems to have ducked behind a cloud, so hopefully that'll be better. And so this hat is really slouchy, and so I decided I wanted to do one that was not quite as slouchy. And I wanted to use up some leftover yarn that I had, and I'm really happy with the result of this one. So let me put this on. So this is the second version of the brioche hat. It's not slouchy. It is a very, very fitted beanie. It would probably be too big for me if I didn't wear glasses. But I mean, obviously I can just push that to the back of my head. But yeah, I really, really like how it looks. And it's so soft and going to be very warm. So this one was made with, excuse my hat head. So this was made with some leftover yarn. So this white one was gifted to me, so I don't know the content of the yarn. I have no idea what fibers it is. I have no idea what brand it is, because it was gifted to me by someone who also didn't know what brand or fiber content. So, but this blue yarn is actually left over from the test knit that I did for making stories, the Woods book. I did the Black Forest cardigan, and it was made with this, it's 100% merino yarn, and I can't remember the name of the producer now, the company that makes the yarn. I'll put some text on the screen that tells you what it is. So yeah, so I decided to make that. So I did, and I really love how 2-color brioche looks, especially in a hat like that. Oh, it's so squishy and just so soft, and yeah. Anyway, none of these things are blocked yet, so I'm a little bit terrified to block them because of how much I know brioche grows. But yeah, hopefully it'll go well. And then this one, I'm not really sure how I'm gonna block it because I don't want to block the pom-pom. So I think I'm gonna like try and hold the pom-pom, like, I don't know. I have no idea. It'll be an adventure. Excuse me, an adventure. But I had so much of those 2 yarns left over, and I wanted some matching pieces to go for my winter wardrobe. Because winter wardrobe is really important in Maine. Maine gets very cold and stays very cold for a long time. So, so a lot of winter hats and scarves and mittens and everything is a must here in Maine in the winter. So, I decided to make a hand warmer, and I know I even have an episode called the hand warmer of shame, because I only ever make one and then I never make the second. So I'm hoping that this won't happen with this one, but it may be another case of a one hand warmer wonder, because I'll tell you in a minute once you've seen it. So here is the hand warmer. So it's brioche again. I did a regular 1x1 rib for the cuff, and I wanted to make it match the cast off edge. So all of the cast off edges and cast on edge are in that blue yarn. And so I just did a normal cuff as I would for a regular hand warmer, and then I added the second color and did brioche. I made the thumb gusset in brioche, but here's the thing. I didn't write any of this down. I just did it, and I don't remember how I did it, and so now I'm gonna have to go back and sort of reverse engineer the second one. I do know how many rounds I did of this, and I kind of sort of know how I did this part. I just don't know at what rate I did this part. So yeah, anyway, I'll figure it out and try and write it down as I'm doing it this time so that I can write up the pattern for this. Because I was actually looking on Ravelry and I haven't found very many brioche hand warmer patterns, so maybe this will be one of the patterns I release. So I may release these two as a set, and then this one will probably be a free pattern that I release at some point. But we'll see. I do have to block it and see how it turns out once I'm done, once it's blocked. But yeah, I'm hoping I won't change it too much from what it is unblocked, because I really like both of these things as they fit unblocked. So yeah, yeah. Anyway. Oh, Kelsier is bothering me. Hello. Yes. It's all right. I'm just talking to my friends on the internet. Yeah. All right, anyway, so moving on. So those are all of my finished objects. So I will move on now to works in progress. So some of these you've seen before, some of them you haven't. I'll start with the ones that you haven't, or well, one of the ones you haven't. And so the cast off edge, like I said, was done in this Madeline Tosh scrap. So this is the hat that I actually made in the yarn. So this I made back in May. And so I wasn't entirely happy with how I did the ribbing. And then I realized as I went to go write down the pattern, because I haven't written it down yet, and I was planning on doing that this week, I went and realized that I didn't write down how I did the decreases for the crown. I mean, I did, but I wrote them in a really terrible shorthand that I can't even remember what I meant at all. So, and I can't tell what point I started doing the decreases or what, I can't really tell what's going on at all at the top of this hat. And I also really wasn't happy with the ribbing down here. You may not be able to tell, but this set of knit 2 stitches should actually be over 1. There should only be 1 purl stitch between these two, yeah, anyway, it's frustrating because of how many stitches are in the cable pattern, and I guess I could add a stitch between, but I don't want to do that. But yeah, so because of the way that the cable pattern works, the ribbing needed to be different. So I decided to cast on another version of this hat. So this version is just going to be my own hat. I really love how this hat fits. It is really loose though, so most people probably wouldn't like it that loose, they would probably feel like it would fall off their head. I really love how this hat fits. So I decided to cast on a second version of the hat with a better ribbing, more well thought out, and now I will actually write down what the decreases are, not in shorthand. I'm gonna write it down stitch by stitch. So here is the second version. So I ran out of this orange yarn, so it's gonna be a two-tone hat. Anyway, so the camera really is gonna blow this orange out. It is a lot, I guess, darker. I don't really know, like, it's hard, it's really hard. This shade of orange is really difficult to show on camera, apparently. And it was doing this to me the first time I recorded this episode too, but if you can just bear with me for a minute. So here is, so the ribbing I have changed to where it's mostly a 1x2 rib. So there's only one stitch in between here, and then there are 2 stitches here, and it actually lines up properly. But yeah, so it actually lines up. It actually looks way better than the other the ribbing on this hat. Not that anybody else would be able to tell that it looks weird. I can tell that it looks weird and I don't like it. So, so I am going to finish. This is actually the point where I need to start doing the decreases, and I don't really know how I want to do the decreases yet. So I have to do a little bit of planning and plotting to see if I can, like, come up with a chart for the decreases or something. But yeah, so I have just the decreases left on this hat. It is pretty well finished. But yeah, so it goes up to here. So I just have the crown decreases. And it's gonna be a fairly quick decrease, so it's gonna make it kind of a rounded, like this one is, I don't think I started the decreases until like here. So I only did like 6 or 7 rows of decreases. I'm not sure, I can't remember. But yeah, so here is sort of an autumn version, and here is like a spring version. I think that's how that's gonna go when I take pictures of them. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have enough of this red yarn left to do the decreases. I'm really hoping I am, because I don't wanna have to add a third color in just to do some decreases. So hopefully I'll be able to finish this up here pretty quick and get this pattern out as well. Yes, so there's that. That is a work in progress. It is almost finished. I only have a few rows left, but there's a lot of thinking involved in those rows, so I put that off. So this hat actually is knit. I keep forgetting to mention the needles that I use. So the ribbing is knit with US 6, which I tried to remember all of these, and I think it's a 4mm. I think it's 4mm. So it's knit in 4mm at the ribbing here, and then this is a 5mm needle for the actual pattern here, and I'm doing it on my ChowGoo circulars, interchangeables, which is pretty much my go-to needles. If I don't have a size available that I need for a pattern or for something, I pretty much just wait until I have the needles free. I do want more tips and more cords so that I can have more of similar projects on the needles, but for now I am trying to clear needles before I actually cast new things on. So this right now is living, this project is living in my Hannah-Lisa Haverkamp bag. I have a couple of my favorite pins on here. My David Bowie one is probably my favorite. But yeah, so I'm holding that in here for now. Let's see, what is next? I will show you. Let's see, socks. So I haven't been making very many socks lately. I've pretty much been working on big garments or shawls, big accessories pretty much, and not very many socks. But I did cast this sock on not that long ago, and I've shown it on the podcast before. I think I was about here or so. I was a little bit before this marker here. I think I was probably about here. And I said that I was probably gonna just pop in a heel right where I was, but I kept knitting. So I have not counted how many rows I have between here and here. This is definitely a longer cuff length, longer leg length than I normally make. But yeah, so this is just a plain vanilla sock. The yarn is Old Rusted Chair in the colorway A Bad Trip. I'm knitting them on my fixed circulars from ChowGoo. They're the 2.75 millimeter. That's the gauge I prefer to knit my socks at. So yeah, there's a lot of rows here, which normally I only make my cuffs, I'd say probably about this long, but I added a full, that looks like at least 20 rows extra. This is where I started doing my increases for a mini heel flap, like sort of gusset adjustment here, because I find that my instep is a little bit higher. So, and then I'm doing a German short row heel, or done a German short row heel, and now I'm just working up the foot as I normally would. Now, I think that I'm gonna try and do the toe a little bit differently to see if I like it a little better than the decreases. I think I'm gonna try a German short row toe also, or a short row toe in general. Whether it's a German short row or not, I may do like a wrap and turn short row heel or toe. But I'm gonna try that and see how I like the Kitchener stitch across the top of the foot. We'll see. I'm experimenting. Yeah, because I really don't like, I mean, I don't mind Kitchener stitch. It's fairly simple, so, but I really don't like how the toe ends up looking on most of my socks. So I'm hoping that this will be a nice compromise, a nice different thing for the toes of my socks. So there's that work in progress. That one is living in my bag that I bought from Knit Picks. She taught me to knit. It has been a great amusement. It's a Jane Austen quote. Anyway, so I'm doing that, and yeah, I really like how that yarn is kind of micro striping around the sock. It makes me happy. And then if I didn't have enough to talk about, I have 3 more works in progress and 1 acquisition to talk about. So we'll start with my meandering shawl. So that's living in my Mrs. Brown's bag. I have decorated it with a few pins. So this is one that I picked up while I was in California. This is a unicorn, and then this really pretty flower enamel pin. Anyway, so my meandering shawl, when I showed it to you last, I think it was where this little sheepy is. So this is a stitch marker from the Corner of Craft. It is one of the pastel rainbow sheep. I absolutely love this stitch marker. It makes me happy every time I see it. But yeah, anyway. So here's my meandering shawl. It's getting pretty big. I am almost finished with the body, and then I just have the edging after that. But the body, I have half of 1.5 repeats of the pattern basically left to go. Yeah, so I'm almost finished. I have made a great many mistakes in this shawl. It is my very first, hold on, Kelsier style. It is my very first brioche pattern that I've ever worked. And there are some issues with it, but I'm really enjoying the pattern. Like, I'm really enjoying the process of knitting it. So I'm trying not to focus too much on the things that I've messed up, because I know that when I'm finished with the shawl, I'm never gonna remember where most of these mess ups are. And I will point out just a few of them for you, just so you can see sort of the things that I'm ignoring, so that I can love the shawl as much as I want to. So as you can see, so here, this should not look like that. It should be another, I don't even know how it happened, but it did, and I did not feel like picking back in order to fix it. It's, brioche is such a labor of love that it just takes so long to knit brioche, and I didn't want to pick back because I had felt like I had made so much progress after that, and I realized that I messed it up way later than I should have. And then there are a couple of other times where I forgot to do the increase, or like I did the increase incorrectly, and then there's like a hole here, or and honestly, when it's blocked and finished, I'm never gonna notice those things. So I am ignoring, like I'm not really that much of a perfectionist anyway, but I'm just going to ignore the mess ups that I have on this shawl. I really wish that I could stretch this out to its fullest. I don't have a cable long enough, so I actually have like a connector. I have 2 cables here to make it a long cable. So yeah, I'm really, 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 really enjoying this pattern. I love brioche. And it's really funny because when I first started this shawl, I was not in love with brioche. I thought it was more difficult than it was worth, and but yeah, now that I've gotten into it, I mean, obviously I made these things because I actually enjoyed doing brioche. So yeah. Alright, so I'm really enjoying the meandering shawl. It's a pattern by Stephen West. The yarns that I'm using for it are the Knit Pick Stroll Fingering is the white, and then this color, it's Wonderland Yarns in the Amethyst colorway, which was an exclusive colorway to the first Fiber Muse Alchemy kit. So this is actually showing up a lot more blue than it really is. It's a lot more purple than this. Nope, still showing up kind of blue. But it is very purple. So yeah, so that is my meandering shawl. I'm really, really enjoying it, as I said. And I'm hopefully just not gonna think about the mistakes that I've made. Okay, so gotta kind of hurry it up because my camera says I only have 4 minutes left to record. So, the other things I'm working on, I have the Old Romance sweater by Joji Locatelli. So I showed it to you when it was just the sleeves. I have done a couple of inches of stockinette for the body. So this is where the body starts, and there is where I am. I'm still doing increases for the neck band. And I'm keeping track of my rows up until I'm done with the neckband, and that's it. I'm not doing that anymore. It is way too much effort, especially because I've got like 18 inches or something of stockinette that I need to do on the body. So yes, I'm really enjoying this pattern. It is, I really want the sweater, so that's gonna make it go by a lot faster as far as that goes. So yes, the yarn that I'm using is Dingo Dye Works in the pinky colorway, and the green is Carimbia, possibly. I will put the name of it on the screen. So that is, I'm holding that in my Fiber Muse Alchemy Kit tote bag, and that is all of the works in progress I had up until today, when I watched the podcast Girls in the Yarn Cafe, and Tristan is she put one of her patterns up as a free pattern on Ravelry this weekend, so I decided to get it, and I cast it on this morning. So, it's the Changing Staircase Shawl. And I think it's Tristan Molina, I think is that is her full name if you want to look it up on Ravelry. So I'm using this yarn right here. It is On the Round. It's Cosmic Speckled Rainbow. Or Cosmic Rainbow. I can't remember if it's Cosmic Speckled Rainbow or just Cosmic Rainbow. Anyway, I got it at my local yarn store. She is actually a dyer who lives in Maine. And so here is what the shawl is looking like so far. And so, yeah, so here is, it's really cool. I've already done 4 sections. They're like 10-row sections. So I'm really liking how it looks. I tried to use this yarn for another project. Actually the Tempest shawl that I'm having test knit right now, I tried to use this for that, but it was too variegated and I couldn't see the stitch pattern the way that I wanted to, so I went with a more solid yarn. But yeah, I think it's looking really, really good in this, because this part is just stockinette, and then this is like an eyelet sort of section. I think that it will look really good, especially once it's blocked out. It's gonna look really great. So I'm really enjoying it. It really only took me, all right, so I've had to take a break because first of all, the sun is moving. And then also my camera was doing some real weird stuff. So I think I fixed it now. It's recording at least, so that's something. Anyway, I was talking about my changing staircase shawl. So there is that. I have done 4 sections. This really only took me about half an hour to do while I was watching a movie, and I don't even think I finished the movie. Anyway, it's really good. I really like the pattern. It's really easy to follow. And yeah, so, and I think it looks really good with hand-dyed yarn, which is one thing that Tristan does say, is that it does look really good with hand-dyed indie yarn. So I think that is a true assessment. But yeah, it's a really interesting interesting pattern. So I'm really looking forward to finishing it and using this yarn finally, because I've had this yarn for a long time. So yeah, there's that. And I am actually going to go back, now that I have more time to record, I'm going to go back and talk about my old romance shawl a little bit, or sweater a little bit. So I wanted to kind of show you what it looks like a little bit. So obviously you won't really be able to tell what this part will be until, this part will really look like until it's actually done. But here is the idea of it. I do have a couple more increases left to do, and then it really is just straight stockinette forever. And I really like, so this is gonna be really fitted in the arm. The arm is very, I mean, obviously it's really snug. And I'm going to put ribbing here, and I'll probably continue the ribbing until it hits my hand here. Because that's kind of how long I like my ribbing. Because I don't think the ribbing is very long in the pattern, but I think it is going to, I think I'm going to make it longer. Anyway, and I think I'm gonna do the ribbing for this sweater. I think I'm gonna do it in this green yarn rather than the gray, just for the cuff. I think the bottom of the sweater and the neckband are both gonna be the gray, but yeah, so that's my progress on that. It's a lot easier to show now that it's not just 2 sleeves. You can kind of see what's actually going on in the sweater now. So yeah, it is going to be a lot of stockinette. I am going to be done keeping track of rows once I'm done with the increases, because that is way too tedious for me to keep track of rows, especially when, so the way I've been keeping track of rows is I have a little notebook that I cross out the rows that I'm finished with. And so I'll go across on the right side and back on the wrong side. And when I hit that, when I start doing the right side again, I'll cross 2 rows off of my list and then pick this back up and do that again. Except that every time that I put the sweater down, I don't want to pick it back up again because it's just endless stockinette. So if I can just keep the momentum going of back and forth rather than having to go back, forth, put it down, cross things off, back, forth, put it down, cross things off, then I think it'll go a lot faster. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I really want this sweater to be done. I think that it's more of a product knit rather than a process knit for me. So I think all of the sweaters that I've made so far this year have been like that though. I really just want, I mean, I want the sweater. I don't really care about how I spend the time. Like, I just want it done. So this will be my third sweater for the year. So that's exciting. I think I've done 3 sweaters and 3 shawls this year. I'm not really sure when I finished all of the shawls that I've done recently. But anyway, so that's everything I'm working on. I mean, and that's a lot of things. I do feel like I'm going to finish up like the socks. I'll probably finish this project really quickly because of how mindless the knit is. Like, I only have to count to 10 a lot and do some eyelets. So like, really it's not going to be that difficult to finish this up. So yeah, I think that it's gonna be really quick to knit since I am only using 1 skein of yarn. And then, so I'll have that hopefully finished. I'm really wanting to finish my meandering shawl. But I know since it's brioche, it is going to take a lot longer, and I just want it done. So I think most of my knits right now really are just product knits. Which, I mean, it's kind of sad because I really like the process of knitting also, but I think I really want the finished object, so I'm going to probably push it so that I can get them done. Sorry about the sun. There's really nothing I can do about it now. Oh, well, maybe there is. I could just close the curtain. That works. Anyway, the last thing that I want to talk about before I talk about general life kind of stuff. Sorry for the crinkling noises. So my grandmother visited my aunt in Pennsylvania for about a month. And so she went to the Lancaster yarn shop and in Kitchen Kettle Village. So it's lancasteryarnshop.com. And it's like a little shop, I guess, and they had a lot of fun looking at yarn and stuff. So originally these yarns were supposed to be for me to make a pair of like house socks for my aunt, except that they're 100% wool. It's merino wool, and my aunt is allergic to wool, so I get the yarn and I can do whatever I want with them. I think I'm gonna make a short row shawl with them. At least that's the plan for now until I come up with a better one. So it's kind of this ombre, like black, dark blue. It's got some like gray and then some like teal and then this like really deep sort of greeny. It's not showing up at all the same color. But anyway, so I have 4 skeins of this, 4 50-gram balls, so 200 grams. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to make a shawl out of it. I think that would be good. I may just, yeah, I think that's probably what it's gonna be as a shawl. So I may make a short row shawl. I've sort of learned a lot more about short rows recently. I've been doing some more research. I mean, and I understood short rows before, and like I get why the short row, German short row heel works for socks, but I think I've got a better understanding of what it actually means, like how to design things with short rows in them. So it was really funny because a friend of mine who's she's a relatively new knitter, she was talking about, I was talking about how sometimes it's hard for me to wrap my head around what a short row actually does. And she was telling me the way that she thought about it was it being kind of the opposite of what a dart would do in sewing. And so like, for some reason that explanation made it more clear to me than any other explanation I had heard, because I also can sew. And so I know what a dart does. So it's like the opposite of what a dart does. And I thought that was a really interesting way of thinking about it. But yeah, so, I don't know. I think it's gonna be a short row shawl. We'll have to see when I get there, because I do have 2 shawls that I wanna work before I get to that point, 3 shawls that I wanna work before I get to that point. And the next one I cast on is going to be after I'm done with my meandering shawl. I need to finish that shawl before I can cast on any of my other designs that I would like to try. So anyway, that's pretty much everything for the yarn content. I know it was kind of sometimes hard to follow along because of all of the cuts that I'm sure I'm going to have to make because of my weird technical difficulties. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you were just here for the yarn content, that's over with now. I'm actually going to talk about what I've been doing these last couple of weeks and try to, and then sort of wrap up and give a little bit of an update on the shawl pattern that I think I'm releasing on October 1st, and maybe a little bit of update on my Etsy store that will be opening soon as well. So thank you so much for watching. If you were just here for the yarn, and if you're sticking around, well, thanks for being interested, I guess. So for the last couple of weeks, I've pretty much just been in job hunting mode. That's pretty much taken up most of my time, other than knitting, obviously. And I obviously stress knit, so when I'm stressed, all I want to do is sit and knit. So I've been doing that, which is fine. It's just helped me, I guess, with the stress that I've sort of been feeling with needing to find a new job. And so I am starting a new job on Tuesday next week, so that'll be interesting. I may talk about that a little bit later at a later point, but right now I'm not going to. Yeah, so I've basically just been knitting and watching a lot of Netflix. I watched season 2 of Narcos because I loved season 1, but season 2 I had to find a project that I was working on that I didn't really have to look at so that I could read the Spanish subtitles because I don't speak Spanish. So, but yeah, so I ended up for the last couple of episodes just not knitting and watching TV, which was really weird for me because I normally always have a project going when I'm watching TV. I've also been working my way through Star Trek Deep Space Nine again. It's probably one of my favorite series just in general. And I really enjoy watching it, so I sometimes just put it on so that I can have noise. But yeah, other than that, my last, I think I have a little bit more to do on the auction piece that I'm working on. So every year the Discovery Museum does an auction to raise money as like a fundraiser type thing, and they have local artists take an unfinished wooden object and make it into a piece of art. And so what I'm doing to it this year is I'm painting a galaxy on it, but it's actually it's based on the Orion Nebula, so I'm trying to make it as accurate as I can to one of the pictures that NASA has on their website. So I'm doing that on 2 sides, and I may do the Crab Nebula on the other 2, but we'll see when I get there, I guess, what's going on with that. So I'm really enjoying it. It's quite fun because I don't normally paint a whole lot, but yeah. So I think that's pretty much all I've been doing. Yeah, so that's life stuff, and I guess what's left is talking about the Etsy store and my Ravelry store. So the Etsy store I have set up. I haven't made the listings yet or anything like that, and I'm not sure when I'm going to launch those, but it'll be at Quarrelsome Rhino on Etsy, and as pretty much everything else that I have is named Quarrelsome Rhino, so it will hopefully be really easy to find. I do have now in my Instagram profile, I put a link tree in there so that you can just click on the one link and you can find all of the things that I'm doing and everything. And I think you can find my email contact in there as well if you want to get a hold of me for collaborations or anything you want to do, anything you need to ask me or anything like that. I do have a test knit group open, or I have a Ravelry group for the podcast, and I do have a test knit open for the Tempest shawl. It is due by October 1st because that is, or September 30th because that is when I'm releasing the pattern. The pattern that I have right now has not been tech edited. I have found a couple of errors and fixed those in the pattern that I have. And once I get it back from the tech editor, once everybody's done testing, anybody who is testing for me will get a copy of the polished, finished pattern. Like, I guess, preference on future test knits if they want to participate in those. Yes, that's where that is right now. And then I've got 3 hat patterns, 3 shawl patterns, and a pair of hand warmers, 2 pairs of hand warmers. 3 pairs of hand. So I have about 9 patterns that I need to write up. And so I'm gonna be working on that hopefully here in the next couple of days so that I can start getting those patterns out, since that'll be good. But yeah, I'm thinking about starting up a newsletter. So I'm going to write up a free pattern that I'm gonna release for signing up for the newsletter as sort of a bonus. More on that, I guess, to come. So I think that's everything I had to talk about. It seems like I have a huge pile of stuff right here off camera that I need to like carry back to my room. I had so much knitting time this week that I think it's only been 12 days since I recorded last, but I needed to get everything done so that I could put it away, all the things I've finished, put it away and start working on the patterns for them. But yeah, anyway, thank you so much for coming and watching my progress and spending a little bit of your time with me. I know that there are hundreds of podcasts out there, and I'm just so humbled that you would sit and watch mine. So have a wonderful weekend, and I hope to see you very soon in my next video. Bye.